Hello and welcome to Super Over Decoded, powered by IDFC FIRST Bank. Well, it's England versus India, the fourth T20I, and it's been disappointing again. And I've said this before, and nothing much has changed. Well, let's just start with right from the top. India won the toss, elected to bat first. That's the other thing. But generally in England, doesn't change much unless overcast conditions or otherwise the pitch doesn't change, and it's not a day and night, to be fair. I mean, there is daylight till 9:30, so you really don't use the floodlights as much during the summer here in England. So it really doesn't matter that much unless it's overcast, like I said, and the ball starts moving around a little bit. So bat first, bat second generally depends on what the team does better in general, right? Nothing to do with the conditions as such. So India won the toss, elected to bat first. Again, this was kind of a must-win game because obviously losing this, you lose the series. India were forced to make a couple of changes. Varun Chakravarti and Harshit Rana both have hamstring injuries, so replaced by Prasidh Krishna for Harshit. And you got Washington Sundar, almost like for like to a certain extent, but with Washington Sundar, you increase your batting depth a little bit. Before we move into the next segment, let's pause and talk about value. In T20 cricket, it's not only about the big hits, it's about making the most of every single run, especially in these conditions here in England. Even the quiet singles count because over 20 overs, those small contributions also build something meaningful. Your money works much the same way. Every spend should add value. Every transaction should feel like it's working back for you. With IDFC FIRST Bank lifetime free credit cards, you get rewards, lounge access, and multiple benefits, all with zero annual fee. Because in cricket and in money matters, consistent value makes the real difference. The first innings, India won the toss and batted first. Again, didn't start off well. Lost 2 early wickets. That's been the thing. Lost 3 wickets very early. Picking the right bowlers on that given day conditions. And Shreyas was absolutely brilliant. You saw that in him in terms of picking up singles, rotating the strike, taking a little bit of time, which we spoke about in the last video. You've got to give yourself some time, and then in England, in these conditions, you look at the last 10 overs with wickets in hand. So I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and tactically as well. On that day, he thought Rashid, and he's very good against spin, especially leg spin. Rashid was the guy, and he got 44, he scored 80 of 49, but out of that 44 of 17 deliveries were off Rashid. So you pick the bowlers, you be smart. That is game plan. That also comes with experience, which Shreyas has as compared to some of the others, and also playing at this level. So that is something that the younger Indian batters need to learn from someone like Shreyas as well. How do you plan your innings? It's not just about watch the ball, hit the ball. There is a lot more to batting at the international level, where you use your head, you use tactically, you got to be strong strategically. Game plan has to be spot on. And I thought Shreyas's innings was again a very, very good example of all of that. And I hope he must have spoken to the other batters about it, and the other batters have picked something out from that innings of Shreyas. Yeah, so India again lost wickets, back end. Shreyas was the only bright and a really bright spot in that innings. Yeah, 80 out of 150, that is more than 50%. So that says it all. In 49 deliveries, right? So the others had technically 71 deliveries to score the rest of the runs, 68 of them. So again, a disappointing performance, and definitely 30 runs, at least 25 to 30 runs short on the surface. Now, India needed to defend 158, and it was always going to be tough. But then, there was something in the pitch for the bowlers. Like I said, wasn't a 200, 220 pitch, but then had to bowl well. Did all right, started well. Arshdeep got the wicket. Started off all right, got the wicket of Jos Buttler a little early. But then, apart from that, everything just looked quite mundane and sparkless, right? But it just looked flat. But again, just going back to, let's get a little more tactical and in-depth about this, because obviously we all know what the scoreline is and how it happened and all of that. But again, like batting, I was talking about in the first innings, bowling as well needs to adapt to different conditions. Now, I'll give you an example. Prince started off really well. The first 3 balls he bowled, back of length, pace on, 3 of them. And it was Phil Salt who struggled, right? And he was struggling. He opened his account only in the 9th delivery, right? So it was batting on 0 for the first 8 deliveries, right? So Prince comes in, troubles him, 3 balls, hard length, and he's like late on it, and in trouble. The next ball was a slower delivery outside off stump, which Phil Salt hit over covers, and then it was a different ball game. Then he started playing a straight drive. The next ball was another length ball, which unfortunately took the bottom edge and went for a 4. But then it was a half volley, the next one, bowled a no ball. So what I'm trying to say here is the bowlers need to adapt as well. And how? The turning point for me would be, to a certain extent, Abhishek Sharma's wicket, because in this game, India was completely outplayed from very early. From first couple of overs itself, you could see, Indian players were trying to adapt and trying to play a different way. You could see that, but they were outplayed. But the turning point, I thought, was Abhishek, because he was batting 16 or 14 and he's got that ability. He's got experience of T20 as well. And that's where, and it wasn't the greatest of deliveries from Rashid. It was a half tracker. He pulled it, kind of sliced it, and it went up. It wasn't the greatest delivery, and the shot was on. Execution wasn't right. And because had he not got out there, India would have been in a decent position after power play. And then Shreyas and him, people who I think are one is a left-hand, right-hand combination. You had and people who can rotate the strike and play those big shots. So for me, the turning point, to a great extent, was that wicket of Abhishek, because post that wicket, suddenly we saw a tactical change and Shivam came in. Maybe the idea was the same, to kind of create the same thing that would have happened with Abhishek and Shreyas in that partnership. Maybe the idea was that. But for me, I think turning point was that. But for final verdict, well, as far as this series is concerned, it's gone. England's won for the first time, and but the idea is, it's not again about winning and losing. It's about how you've played. And now India's been outplayed completely, England and in Ireland. You got to accept it. Batted better than us, bowled better than us, and fielded better than us. Yes, obviously there are a few caveats. You got to put home team, better idea of conditions, and they really did play the conditions very well, better than India. And also the experience, right? If you look at the Indian side, I'm never going to use this as a justification, but then the fact of the matter is, for a lot of these guys, this is their first trip in these conditions, playing this format. So you've got to be patient. There is no two ways about it. You've got to be patient. I know it's a new captain and it's a World Cup winning. We won the World Cup, and obviously we are number one. Maybe we are not number one anymore. England may have taken over us. But then, but you've got to be patient in terms of, like I said, for various reasons. This is a team which needs to be built over two years before the next World Cup, which is in 2028 in Australia. Remember, in Australia, conditions would be different. Last 2 World Cups we won were in the Caribbean, not very alien to Indian conditions, and definitely the second one at home. So in Australia, the conditions would be different. So you've got to start thinking about that and prepare the team, get the right personnel for those conditions. And this is a good test. This is a good experience for the newer guys, and a good test as well for them and for the team management. But patience, like I said, is something that we need to have with this team, with this captain, this management. But at the same time, what you also want to see, the direction, the improvement. You want to see a direction. You want to see them improving. And that's where the last couple of games, I'm not talking about the first two in Ireland and the two here in England, but the last two games, a little bit surprising, because I thought by now they would have adapted. They would have learned from the opposition, from the English side. And also, but the other challenge is they didn't have too many practice sessions. I think ever since they've landed in Ireland, they've only had maybe 3 to 4 practice sessions. That does not help either. With all the travel and everything else, playing back-to-back games. I mean, for example, the 4th and 5th, it's back-to-back, 1 day's gap. So that's something. But like I said, what you want to see is a direction. If you're looking at 2 years down the line, the bigger picture, one is direction, secondly is improvement. You need to see that improvement. And improvement, keeping in mind what you need to do in these conditions. Is there adaptability? Can you adapt to different conditions? Because again, there is Olympics in 28, which is in LA, USA, where don't know what you're going to get. So adaptability becomes very, very crucial. You can't say, we are not used to this, right? Nobody is. And secondly, Australia. Then after that will be the World Cup, where we know what the conditions are like. So that's where, and just to make a bigger point, that's where red ball cricket becomes very important when you're growing up. That helps you improve your adaptability technically, mentally, tactically, because from session to session, from spell to spell, realizing how to play out a good spell and how to capitalize on against the bowler who's not bowling well, condition adapting, so I think that's where, just on a bigger scale, I think that's the reason I keep advocating for kids growing up. Don't be one-dimensional. Don't just think about T20 and white ball cricket. Red ball cricket makes you a better rounded player. And I think Shreyas, again, I'm not going to compare because of the experience factor, but Shreyas, because he's a 3-format player, you can see the difference, how he could have adapted and how he played in that game and adapted himself to some of the others who maybe a little more T20 oriented. Thank you for watching Super Over Decoded, powered by IDFC FIRST Bank.